The world watched in horror, unable to tear their eyes away from the screens. It was a moment etched in time, a collective gasp that echoed across the globe, a terrifying spectacle unfolding on live television, as if the world had been thrust into a dystopian nightmare. A blinding flash illuminated the night sky over Beijing, turning night into day for a brief horrifying moment. Seconds later, a monstrous mushroom cloud rose, casting a sinister glow upon the horrified faces below, a symbol of humanity's darkest hour. Then, darkness. Communication lines went dead, severing the world from itself. The world held its breath, knowing what was to come. The silence was deafening, a prelude to chaos. It was the dawn of a new dark age. Nuclear war had begun, and there was no turning back. This was not a nightmare. It was a terrifying reality, a grim testament to human folly. The culmination of years of escalating tensions, mistrust, and a relentless arms race had finally reached its boiling point. The unthinkable had happened, and the world was now paying the price. China, Russia, the USA, and NATO were locked in a deadly embrace, each side unwilling to back down. A nuclear dance of destruction, leaving nothing but devastation in its wake. The world as we knew it was gone, replaced by a landscape of ruin and despair. The path to this global catastrophe was paved with miscalculation, fear, and a series of unfortunate events that spiraled out of control. The conflict in Ukraine, simmering for years, had finally erupted into full-scale warfare, drawing Russia and NATO into a proxy war that neither side could afford to lose. Meanwhile, across the globe, the Taiwan Strait had become a tinderbox, a flashpoint for potential conflict, with China's increasing assertiveness met by the unwavering presence of the US Navy, creating a volatile standoff. Each side, trapped in a deadly game of brinksmanship, viewed the other with suspicion and distrust, escalating tensions to unprecedented levels. The expansion of NATO further east, perceived as a direct threat by Russia, had only deepened the divides, making diplomatic resolutions seem impossible. Years of diplomatic efforts had failed, eroded by a lack of trust and a dangerous erosion of international cooperation, leaving the world on the brink of disaster. The world had become a powder keg, and it only took a spark to ignite it, leading to a potential Armageddon that could reshape the global order forever. It began with a preemptive strike. Fearing an imminent attack, Russia launched a barrage of intercontinental ballistic missiles targeting key NATO military installations and command centers across Europe and North America. Minutes later, the United States retaliated in kind, unleashing its own nuclear arsenal against targets in Russia and China. The initial death toll was unimaginable. Millions perished in the searing heat and blast waves of the initial explosions. Cities were reduced to smoldering ruins, once vibrant metropolises transformed into desolate landscapes of concrete and ash. But the horror did not end there. The aftermath of the nuclear firestorm was just as devastating. Radioactive fallout carried by prevailing winds spread across the globe, contaminating water supplies, crops, and entire ecosystems. Millions more would die in the days, weeks, and months that followed, succumbing to radiation sickness, starvation, and disease. The world was plunged into a nuclear winter. The massive amounts of smoke and debris ejected into the atmosphere blocked out the sun, causing global temperatures to plummet. Crops failed, leading to widespread famine. The delicate balance of the planet's ecosystem was shattered, leaving a world scarred and broken. In the face of such overwhelming destruction, the question arises, could this catastrophe have been averted? Could the immense loss and devastation have been prevented if we had taken different actions or made different choices? The world had, after all, created treaties, established emergency hotlines, and developed advanced missile defense systems, all in the hope of maintaining peace and preventing such a disaster from ever occurring. Yet despite these efforts, they had all failed. The treaties were broken, the missile defense systems proved ineffective, and the emergency hotlines remained silent when they were needed the most. The answer perhaps lies not in technology or treaties, but in ourselves. It is within the hearts and minds of individuals that the true power to prevent such catastrophes resides. The choice between diplomacy and destruction is a choice that rests solely in the hands of humanity. It is a decision that must be made with wisdom, compassion, and foresight. It is a choice we must make every day in the decisions of our leaders and the actions of individuals. Every small act of kindness, every effort to understand and communicate contributes to a larger culture of peace. The survival of our species depends on choosing dialogue over destruction, on fostering connections rather than divisions, cooperation over conflict, and ultimately peace over war. It is through these collective efforts that we can build a safer, more harmonious world. For in a nuclear war, there can be no winners, only survivors. And the cost of survival in such a world is far too high a price to pay.